The moment has finally arrived, a moment for which I've been waiting for more than one day now. And I'm really excited because it's time now to draw the very first Real People cards for the very first game in the Real Person Multiplayer Solitaire Mega Tournament. So let's see who's going to be in our first game, which incidentally is going to be Imperial 2030. So here we go. So it took me a while to shuffle the Real People deck. I try to shuffle in everything I've played with since I started using Real People cards, so that they all had an equal chance coming out. It's not an easy deck to shuffle. The cards are large and unwieldy and kind of floppy, so they don't shuffle well. What I'm doing right now is just kind of mixing them because I don't want to see the top card until I draw it. Alright, so here we go. Pop. Here's our first guy right here. His name is Chef. No, his occupation is Chef. His name is Bird. His secret fantasy is to spend the weekend with Oprah Winfrey and a fridge of food. Unusual fact, he's wild in a hot tub. His pet peeve is hard butter. He'd like to meet Jar Jar Gabor. His personal motto is do unto others as much as you can. Most proud of his adaptation to any scenario. He's able to adapt. His reputation in high school is class clown and most likely to ellipse. That's a ... I don't know most likely to what. 3 words, I guess it's best left to the imagination, or that's what he intends. 3 words that describe him are open, free, versatile. Bird. Okay, I'm going to draw from the middle, so I can't see the middle. And here we have another gentleman. This one's name is Chappie. He's a real estate investment person, agent. I would say that's an agent job, a real estate investment agent. His secret fantasy is to be a big shot detective. Unusual fact, with no money, I'm almost $1 million in debt. Wow. He's going to be a fun player for Imperial 2030, I think. His pet peeve is movies. I can appreciate that. He'd like to meet Donald Trump. His personal motto is the greatest feat is doing what others say can't be done. Right? I'd like to connect that in my head with the debt problem. He's most proud of his 2 daughters. His reputation in high school is he's popular with no money. 3 words that describe him: on the edge. Chappie. So that there's a bit more symmetry with ideology, the War of Ideas, I decided to go with a 5-player game of Imperial 2030. My first instinct was to go with 6 players because I like to have as many real people involved as possible. The recommended number is 4 players. 5 players I think plays pretty well with this game. So let's draw another one. This one will go kind of towards the bottom. This person has no hope of getting drawn because she's right on the top, and neither does this person because I just saw her too. Or this person. I should put them back. I kind of glimpsed it. There's a male underneath them. If I see him, I'm going to have to put him back. Alright, we'll draw from the bottom here. Ooh, now, I think every single person we've had so far, I've been looking at the backs, but I kind of glimpsed the front, has facial hair. What does that mean? I don't know. Occupation, the person's name is Demi. Occupation is advertising display assistant. I would like to read a job description of that. Secret fantasy, he'd love to be a toon, in quotes, and then cartoon in parentheses in case you don't know what a toon is. Unusual fact, he's dated Alice in Wonderland. Pet peeve is people who haven't a clue about video. People who haven't a clue about video movie rentals. He'd like to meet Steven Spielberg. Personal motto, laughter is the best medicine. Most proud of getting a job. Reputation in high school, the class clown. 3 words that describe him are fun, tenacious, and sexy. I'm gonna, instead of making you suffer another scene change, I'm gonna go ahead and draw another one. I just accidentally saw fries, not fries, noodles in there. Oops, I gotta pick another one. Okay. Oh, okay, this is Otto. He's an inventor. And his secret fantasy is to drive the Budweiser speedboat. An unusual fact about Otto is he walks like Grape Ape. In case you don't know who Great Ape is, he's a toon, a Hanna-Barbera toon from, I don't know what year, but he was a large purple gorilla, walked like you'd expect, I don't know. Pet peeve is lint balls in his socks. He'd like to meet Super Dave. I think Super Dave was a stunt driver. Personal motto, you are what you eat. He's most proud of skydiving. His reputation in high school is an athlete. 3 words that describe him are honest, free-spirited, and fun. And our final draw for the first game, in the first ever, to my knowledge, real person multiplayer solitaire mega tournament is Hair Bear. Hair Bear is a produce manager. His secret fantasy is to be a millionaire. An unusual fact about Hair Bear is for 1/2 hour held onto a jumper off a bridge. Pet peeve about Hair Bear's pet peeve is cap left off toothpaste. He'd like to meet Saddam Hussein. Sorry, buddy, that ain't happening now. Personal motto is, what? Me worry! Most proud of his family. His reputation in high school is a jock. We have a lot of athletes in this group. Athletes and class clowns. 3 words that describe him are the big guy, Hair Bear. All right, let's go get our real people their starting investments in Imperial 2030. We're all set up, and while you get a gander as to who has what, I'll remind those of you, or inform those of you who don't know, that the winner of this game of Imperial 2030 will go on to play the role of the United States of America in Labyrinth, the War on Terror 2001 against the winner of Ideology, the War of Ideas, which will be played at some later date. So that's what's at stake. Assume you got to see who has what. Who's this guy? Chappie ended up with the 2 countries. I doubt he'll probably keep Europa, or as we say in the United States, Europe, very long, but we'll see what happens. Alright, I'm going to go through every country's starting move on the rondel and why they chose what they chose, just as a way of getting to know our characters and kind of getting into the flow of the game. I'm not going to be filming at this pace as we get going, but we started with Russia. So our guy Cappy, he chose to invest mainly because he's so used to being broke without any money. He liked the feeling of being a little bit more money in his pocket. Of course, he didn't have the investor card, so he didn't get to invest, but he pulled some money in. Okay, who did get to invest was Hair Bear right here. He ended up taking Europe away from Cappy right away with the 4 million bond. Okay, so then he moved China. China, he chose to import. He's the big guy. He wants to be big. He wanted to have Europe, and he wanted to have a lot of armies in China. He got the latter, but he lost Europe right away to Demi, our advertising display assistant, who had the next investment, which happened later. But India, on its turn, decided to produce, partially in response to that, the buildup in China, and partially because birdie is kind of a, not birdie, bird. I played another game with a birdie, so that's why it's kind of confusing to me. I might call this guy Birdie a few times, I'm sorry. He likes to do things unto others, so he got some armies going because he wants to do things to others. Alright, he's going to probably be poking the hornet's nest more than once during this game. So after India had its production turn, then Brazil decided to invest, and that's when this fellow Demi here took control of Europe. However, Otto, our inventor slash sportsman, ended up investing next with the United States and took a very cash flush Europe away from the others. And then on Europe's turn, he built a boat factory because he likes Budweiser boats. Alright, our players have gone a few times around the rondel, and I thought I'd pause to let you see the results of some of the early turns. So we'll start with, let's take a look at what's going on in China and Russia. So Hair Bear and Cappy had a little bit of a standoff going for for some time where they're both just building up forces, importing and producing, mirror moves of each other. Then they took different tacks. So Hair Bear, being the big man, decided to do a China bomb, bam, and spread out and get a lot of flags. Which he followed up by attacks, which got 2 spaces on the thing. He feels good being in control of the country that's the furthest along on the track. He likes that. Cappy, on the other hand, he matched the buildup of troops, partially because he felt he needed to, and partially because he feels like you have to spend money to do well. And he took that philosophy even further by spending some of his own money to build a factory right here in Novosibirsk. I apologize for all of the poor pronunciation I'm going to do through this series. Bird's India started out with this little kind of like squeaky expansion down here. He produced right away, if you recall. Took South Africa with his tank here. Then he started noticing China was being very aggressive, so he ended up taking an import move as well, something he probably wouldn't have done otherwise. Over in the Western Hemisphere, Brazil did some production, did some expansion. Nothing to write home about. Got a space on the power track. I guess that's worth something. U.S., Europe, both under control of Otto here, been pretty aggressive, trying to kind of put some pressure down on Brazil down here while remaining weary of big old Russia. So Chappie finally had Russia maneuver. And it wasn't a huge maneuver. He did a little bit. A lot of it was more kind of defensive, trying to get China off his southern doorstep. Bird kind of surprised me with an Indian maneuver that actually ended up being more hostile to China than I maybe would have expected. I kind of thought he might have ended up being more defensive against the aggressive Hair Bear, but he kind of said, "Get off my porch," and that's how India stands. Now over here in Brazil ended up buying a factory and went with an army factory. Demi decided to go with an army factory rather than a boat factory, mainly for 2 reasons. One, USA is breathing down his Panamanian neck, and the other reason is there's just a lot of boats, and at the time Otto was controlling both Europe and the United States, lots of boats in the water, so he thought he wouldn't even try and compete with him. Things have changed, however, because Hair Bear just made a large investment in Europe, took the Europe card away from Otto, and so who knows what's going to happen now. It's now Otto's turn to decide what the United States does. We'll see how he reacts. Is he going to try to pull an investor and get some cash from the United States? He's going to be investing soon. It might be a wise move. Or is he going to try and import or produce or do something to kind of change his strategy? Because he's really working really unwise, I think, in thinking that he would have this partnership for long. Some other questions on my mind are, will Hair Bear self-fulfill his prophecy of being the big guy now that he has gotten what he wanted at the beginning? Both Europe and China. And Europe has this fairly fierce military, relatively speaking, for this early in the game. And China is also expanding, though it's losing ground fast. Will he be able to hold these 2 countries in order to better his stock? Will Chappie do well with his funds? So right now Russia is broke and he is broke. He moved around the rondelle, made a maneuver, got a little bit of ground. He's not going to be able to land on investor, get any more cash, and the investor card is slowly making its way back to him. Will he be broke in the game as he is in real life, or will his big spending pay off?